No tax on tips.
We will make America wealthy again.
We are going to take inflation and we are going to deflate it. Wokeism makes you lose, ruins your mind, and ruins you as a person.
And we will make America
the second, of course. I'm Katrina Zish, the co-host of American Agenda.
And I'm Bob Brooks, Katrina's co-host.
That's him. That's him. And he's a great anchor and friend.
So are you. I second that. Carl Higbee, host of Frontline. Tom Basile, also joining us here as well, host of America Right Now. We have witnessed history here, ladies and gentlemen, the peaceful transition of power from one political party to another. We watched the president sign a flurry of executive orders that I think is about to happen, actually. We watched the Biden family make their exit from the national stage and likely the end of Joe Biden's political career. Now the big question is, it's about to get underway in the arena, the big celebration, that is.
Yeah, well, there have been celebrations all day. Of course, there's that lovely luncheon that looks like it's wrapping up. There's some toast given, and we are going to continue our conversation of this exciting man, Mike Lawler, and Wisconsin Congressman Brian Stile. They both join us live now from Capitol Hill. Gentlemen, I see the smiles on your faces. Quite a day to be a congressman, I'm sure. Congressman Stile, start with you. Let's start with you, your feelings, your experience on this very exciting day.
Exciting to be in the rotunda. You could feel the energy. Unified Republican control is back, and we have a huge opportunity to get this country back on track. The president spoke about it, about the need to secure the border, about the need to make things more affordable for American families. So it's a celebration today, but then the work begins because there's so much to do to get our country back on track.
Yeah, Congressman Lawler, I already kind of feel that transition happening right now, and I don't want to take away from the celebration of the day and what it took to get here. The American people, the MAGA movement, everyone should get to celebrate for as long as you want. But quickly, people are going to want to see work getting done. They're going to want to see unity amongst the Republican Party just as well. If that doesn't happen, to put it mildly, people aren't going to be happy.
No question. Look, the American people gave President Trump not only a decisive victory, but they gave him a Senate and House Republican majority. We have a lot of work ahead of us to deal with the affordability crisis, the border crisis, the international crises around the globe. Joe Biden left a mess on his way out the door. And President Trump has a lot of work ahead of him, and we have to hit the ground running. I think you're going to see the Senate working day and night to get legislation moving, to get secretaries confirmed. You're going to see the House busy at work, and we're going to have to work together as one team. Everybody's going to have to check their ego at the door and focus on the task at hand. The American people gave us an opportunity for only the fourth time since World War II, a unified Republican control in Washington, and we need to deliver.
Congressman Stile, let's get back to your home state. What are your constituents most looking forward to President Trump getting done?
Well, in Wisconsin, I think people are more excited than anything that we're actually going to secure the U.S.-Mexico border. You heard the president speak about it today, about the executive actions that he is going to take immediately, restarting border wall construction, reinstating stay in Mexico, ending abuse of the parole system. He is taking those executive actions today, and then our ability in Congress to get to work with the president in unified Republican control is going to give us that opportunity to truly secure the U.S.-Mexico border. That has a real impact, not just on border states, but on every community across the United States who is dealing with the challenges that have been brought to us by 4 horrific years of the Biden administration.
Congressman Lawler, what's that going to look like, the deportation, getting the criminals out first, municipalities cooperating? It's going to take a lot of coordination and teamwork here. Can you comment on that?
Well, I think obviously step one is to allow ICE to do its job and to start executing on the deportation orders, especially amongst those who have committed criminal acts while here in the United States, to end catch and release. President Trump already moving swiftly to stop many of the policies of the Biden administration that created this crisis in the first place. And sanctuary cities like New York and Chicago, Los Angeles, are going to need to work with this administration. We are going to take action to stop the continued effort to stymie federal immigration officials from doing their jobs and allowing criminal aliens to continue to remain in this country. It cannot continue, and we're going to stop it. And I think you're going to see very swiftly the Trump administration move to deport criminal aliens.
All right, Congressman Lawler and Congressman Steil, we appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of the celebration. We appreciate your taking time out of this exciting day to join us. All right, and what you're looking at on your screen, there we go. All right, very exciting moment, the review of the troops happening there, a very special moment. Tom Basili, I know that you've been present for these. Tell us a bit more.
Yeah, this ordinarily happens on the plaza, on the outside of the Capitol, on the east front of the Capitol. Of course, all of the festivities moved inside today for the most part due to the extreme frigid weather. But now we're highlighting the president's role as commander-in-chief, and that's why you're going to see the military, all the branches of the military represented here as they do this pass and review with the commander-in-chief momentarily. And again, this would have been part of the parade as well as that pass and review on the front of the Capitol. But now we're going to see it here this is Emancipation Hall inside the Capitol Visitors Center, and we should expect the president at any moment.
Tom Basili, I know you're a veteran. We appreciate your service to the country. Carl Higbee, just as well.
He's the veteran.
Yeah, just as well. We thank you both. I think some executive orders are going to be targeted towards the DOD, certain curriculum that their teachings in the military come down. Carl, is there anything that you want to highlight here?
There's some big ones coming down. And the DOD is different because it doesn't require an executive order the same way as a lot of other things do, because it is a linear chain of command. Where you have, we obviously have a ton of executive orders coming down the line right now, but with the DOD, you can make a lot of movements because it is a monarchy in the military. It's a chain of command, so you can make instant changes right away without having to go through the paperwork of an executive order. It can just be a verbal order. Remember when President Trump tweeted out to let Eddie Gallagher off the hook, and they had to stop the prosecution.
Yeah, we know President Trump, he's calling these executive orders common sense orders. Some of them include defending women and biological truth. We heard him mention that today. Also promoting privacy, safety, and fairness in single-sex spaces for women.
Yep, that's right. He's also going to issue an executive order to end radical DEI programs in the federal government and promote equal treatment. Another executive order he's promising is having the Department of Labor protect freedom of speech in Title VII rights. Okay, a lot to dissect there.
And go back to work in the office.
That's right. He did.
Yeah.
And I just want to point out, when it comes to DOD, they spent over $100 million during the Biden administration on these DEI programs. $100 million.
Can we claw any of that back?
I don't know, but
where did it go?
Right, where did it go? What did it do?
The other thing is
super diverse.
If that's what you're focused on, DEI, $100 million towards that, you can't be focused on two things at once.
No.
Like that's where the priorities.
But this is where Hegseth, what he said last week, was so important. He said we have to get back to ensuring that we are war fighters again,
right,
that we are the most lethal force that we possibly can be, and if it doesn't have anything to do with that, we're not doing it.
Well, that's the other thing, Katrina. Like, if you're taken hostage by Somali pirates, do you want a purple-haired do-gooder that feels really nice about things walking down in drag, or do you want a bunch of people that are ready to put bullets in bad guys?
I would go for the latter.
Yep.
I don't think that was a trick question. Yeah, that was pretty easy. Pretty easy. Yeah. All right. Also want to get to this. Newsmax Chief White House correspondent James Rosen joins us now with more on these executive orders. James, take it away.
Katrina and Bob, good afternoon. It's estimated that the total number of executive orders that President Trump's going to sign on his first day in office could approach 200. We understand that at least 11 of them are going to be dealing with immigration issues. The most important of them will be to declare, as Mr. Trump did upon taking office the first time, a national emergency at the southern border. That will in turn make it easier for the president, the commander-in-chief, to deploy U.S. soldiers to the border to deal with the immigration, as he called it, invasion in this country. They will be coordinated by NORTHCOM, the U.S. Northern Command. And one Trump aide saying this executive order will send a clear message that the United States intends to exercise its sovereignty over its land and borders, and that the armed forces have a role to play in protecting our borders. And so we'll turn it back to you now as we await more action at the Capital One Arena.
Yeah, James Rosen, while we got you, we want to talk to you. And I know this is something you're so passionate about, free speech. Obviously, this is what we do. We talk for a living. That's how you're making your life, your career. Anything stand out to you that President Trump has said that he plans to tackle or protect or open up here as we approach, hour 4 into the presidency?
Well, he did say in the inaugural address, Bob, that the era of government censorship is going to be brought to a close. And so, of course, we saw the Biden administration working hand in glove with big tech at different times. And eventually a court order was put in place by a federal district judge to prevent further coordination between the Biden administration and Silicon Valley. And one executive order that we are given to understanding that Mr. Trump will be signing is one that will remove the security clearances of the 51 intelligence professionals who signed a letter during the 2020 campaign declaring that Hunter Biden's laptop had all the markings of a Russian disinformation campaign. To many eyes, that was just rank election interference. And along with the suppression of the original New York Post reporting on Hunter Biden's laptop, it struck many as beyond the pale. And so we understand that in order for those 51 intelligence professionals to lose their security clearances, they come from a lot of different agencies, and there could be some legal pushback, because when you're denied or when you have your security clearance stripped, it could in fact impact your livelihood, it could impact your reputation. So we expect that some of those individuals might sue to reclaim their security clearances. That's why an executive order was considered necessary for that to be put through.
Yeah.
Interesting. I want to get to this one. This one stood out to me because, speaking of common sense orders, this one just to me is, again, so obvious. People will be identified as the sex they were born with, and there will be no gender ideology incentive when issuing federal contracts and grants. James, honestly, to me, this is one of those discussions about biology being flexible or a choice that one could make. Seems to have been one of the most ridiculous things that we've been trying to work around and understand and deal with over the past 4 years.
I can say simply that in my youth, it never dawned on me that the day would come when the concept of who is a boy and who is a girl would be up for grabs somehow or open to debate, but here we are. There is one other element to this. We heard last night at the Cap One arena, then President-elect Trump saying that he was going to take action to declassify all the remaining records relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And we were talking earlier while the ceremonies were underway this morning, and I was asked on air what is likely to be in the remaining documents, and we didn't really have a chance to get to it. If we have the time, I want to say very quickly, when he was president the first time around, President Trump presided over the release of some 4,000 pages of JFK records. There were some important things in there, but he kept a remaining 4,000 or so secret, and that was a surprise to many people who thought that, being an outsider the way he was, that President Trump would just agree to release all the JFK records. As for what remains, there's about 4,000 pages. Most of them belong to the CIA. Only about 86 pages are fully classified and fully redacted. And what's basically in these CIA documents, probably some indications that the Central Intelligence Agency, prior to the assassination of President Kennedy, was keeping tabs on Lee Harvey Oswald. And in particular, there was a CIA official named George Joannides And he's a very important character in all of this, and his records have been the ones that CIA has fought most strenuously over all these years to keep private. We can expect to see the Joannides records come out, and he was the CIA officer who it's believed was keeping tabs on Lee Harvey Oswald before the assassination.
James Rosen, the perfect guest for this time here.
Exactly. Tell us more. Tell us
Yes.
more. Okay.
Always appreciate the historical lessons that you give us, James. We appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by. Okay, folks, we're going to take a quick break.
I'll see. And you know he has a very special place in his heart for the folks who wear the uniform. And so this is very special and very meaningful, not only for the country, but really for him personally.
What I can't help but notice his body language today. Seems very matter-of-fact business. He's been here before, Carl. He's seen it before. He looks like a man who, like, he's honored to be here, obviously, but it looks like he's going to get to work.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I was going to say. I was like, enough. I've done this.
Yes.
Let me go sign some executive orders. I got some stuff to do. We've had 4 years of garbage to put up with. I got to fix this stuff. And that's exactly what he looks like when he's in there.
It does.
Look, I've met this guy before when I have conversations with him. He is very direct. Point, 1, 2, 3, execute, solve.
Right.
Yeah, that's incredible. You know, Tom, again, as we're looking at this here, all of the pomp and circumstance, again, all of these moments very much planned, very much scripted. I know you've been involved in the planning of some inaugurations yourself. Just tell us a little bit about what goes into it and how wild and crazy it must have been to throw all the plans out when we heard about the weather forecast.
There he is saluting the, look, it is, for the folks who plan these things, it is kind of a nightmare scenario to have to move everything indoors, but there is a playbook that they have followed in the past. And look, the Military District of Washington, the architect of the Capitol, the Joint Congressional Committee and the Presidential Inaugural Committee work very well together to ensure that this important day for America comes off without a hitch. And they've done a fantastic job over the last 3 days of making all of these changes to the arrangements, because it does take months to put all of this together. And there's the president walking with the I can't see what his rank is, and he may be the general in charge of the Military District of Washington, and doing a review of the troops. You'll see also the Revolutionary soldiers. They will do a pass in front of the president typically, but again, our founders were really smart. They didn't believe that the Congress had the institutional competency to command the army or to execute our foreign policy.
Because they think a lot and they don't do a lot.
They think a lot and they don't do a lot. And they understood that even though we didn't want a king, that we needed to have one person who was going to be able to make those decisions. And so that's why our president is the commander-in-chief. And this is a celebration of that moment and our founder's vision.
Carl, former Navy SEAL here. When you say Donald Trump, commander-in-chief, what comes to mind?
Get the job done.
Yeah.
Go get our people. That was the other thing. While he was the commander-in-chief, my friends who were still deployed knew that he had his back.
That's right.
You know, when I was in under Bush, I was under Obama, I was in Iraq when we pulled out of Iraq, and we did not feel that he had our back. Donald Trump has. I mean, you look at the story of Eddie Gallagher with that whole thing. I mean, he had his back to the end. Even when sometimes it was politically inconvenient, he did when he sends people into bad places, he gets their back.
We have a recruiting crisis in our military that is really significant. Donald Trump's election is going to help solve that. People are going to want to serve this country again because of what Carl just said. They feel like the commander-in-chief has their back.
I also want to go back to, I was thinking the same thing, Tom, but I was wondering if it goes also back to what we were talking about earlier with younger Americans feeling more proud to be Americans and saying, I want to fight for this country.
Like, we're back.
I remember, I dropped out of college after 9/11 and joined the military because I wanted to go kill bad guys. Okay, that was it. You knocked down my buildings, I am coming to your country. Okay, stand by. And there was that vigor of people that came in. You watched the commercials where it was commercials of blowing stuff up, battleships, guys going in shooting stuff, and now it's like, hey, I play the flute. You know, that people don't join the fighting forces to play the cello.
What, you mean the non-binary spokesperson?
Yeah, exactly.
The purple
do
hair
it for
who's
you?
not gonna arrest
Not anymore. We're about to get in a
That is over. It's
order
done.
signed. We have men and we have women in this country. According
warriors.
That's right, and warriors. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Welcome in the Republican senator from the great state of Alabama, Katie Britt. Senator Britt, good to see you today. Thanks for coming on. Take us through how you're seeing today and how it's gone.
Gosh, it has been incredible, and I am listening to your coverage, and I just could not agree more. When you talk about that pride and that hope, that's what Americans feel today. I was sitting next to my colleagues that came in with me in the 118th class, Ted Budd, Eric Schmidt, Pete Ricketts, and we said, America is back. So this hopefulness, this of like safety and security of American citizens, prosperity, opportunity coming to each and every American, that's what we feel. And you feel like you have someone, just like you said, President Trump has their back, our men and women in uniform. The American people feel like they finally have a commander-in-chief back in the office that has their back as well. So it's an exciting day, and you can feel the energy all across this city, and I believe all across the country as well.
Katie, when you became a senator, what did you anticipate it would be like? What did you anticipate it would be like working closely with a president who's in the same party? And what does that feel like today as the 47th president took the oath of office?
Yeah, that is a great question. Look, I have not had an opportunity over the last 2 years to feel the level of unity that I feel today. It has been building and building since President Trump came and met with all of the Republican senators this summer. And we just continue to feel like we are the party of parents, the party of hardworking Americans. You know, we are the party of opportunity. He has given us a vision. The American people has put their stamp of approval on that vision, and now it's our job to execute. So whether you're looking, no matter where you're looking in the Republican conference, people understand that, and they understand that now is time to get to work. So there's an excitement, there's a level of feeling we're actually going to achieve results for the American people, which is what we're going to do today. Today, the Republican Senate will go back into session in the next hour. The very first thing that we're going to do is pass the Laken-Riley Act. It'll be the final passage. This is a moment for America. It not only honors Laken's legacy, it ensures that Americans' safety and security comes first. It is a common sense bill that would never happen without the leadership of President Trump, the momentum he has built. Americans finally have a voice again, and they're going to see that today with the Republican Senate. Send it back to the House. It'll be the very first bill that President Trump signs into law, and I think that's very fitting because there's been no more litigated issue over the last 4 years than our border, and Americans on November 5th said, we want President Trump, we want secure borders, we want Americans to come first.
Yeah, we know that was one of the very first things he said during his speech, his sole responsibility, protecting us from threats and invasions just as well. Senator Britt, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it. Have fun today. Okay, folks, we're going to take a quick break. Carl Higbie, thank you so much for coming on today and your expertise. Man.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure.
Going to go warm up. I'll be right back.
Yeah. No, it's coming on. Frontline.
5 o'clock.
Optimistic that we are at the start of a thrilling new era of national success. A tide of change is sweeping the country. Sunlight is pouring over the entire world, and America has the chance to seize this opportunity like never before.
All right. Well, the sunlight is starting to go away a little bit behind us here as we return to the Newsmax very special coverage of the inauguration. President Trump, we are understanding he just left the first honor ceremony at Emancipation Hall and will very soon be making his way to Capital One Arena. I do have to say there's been a little activity behind us here down on the street, so we're wondering and anticipating that perhaps the motorcade is on its way, and we believe we did see Vice President J.D. Vance go through that.
We saw a big motorcade, we think, for Vance. That we saw about 3 dozen police on motorcycles go by.
They're
And
getting ready for this moment.
Tom Basile, take us through the moment.
Yeah,
here.
no,
You've been
this
involved
is a big, this is a big moment. Anytime the president moves, it's a big production, and this is a very large motorcade. So you're watching him leave Capitol Hill, is saying his goodbyes there, and he will get into the motorcade and head over to Capital One Arena, where he is expected to start signing those executive orders in front of a crowd of 20,000 people.
I hear there's a desk.
I mean, talk about political theatrics, but one thing you can't see from here is the fact that there's a lot of police lined up on the streets as this motorcade is going to go by. I've been in a motorcade before with President Trump, and it's like it's an exhilarating experience, I think, for President Trump, knowing that he's had a full day. Think about this, full day on Capitol Hill, not only giving the inaugural address, but then moving forward to giving a speech at the Emancipation Hall, which was a much more unscripted speech from President Trump of what he would have included as part of his speech in the inaugural.
So let's talk about this. He's going to go to Capital One Arena and sign executive orders in front of 20,000 people. Who else comes up with stuff like that?
Well, let's remember, in 2017, President Trump signed only one executive order the day he was sworn in as president. So this is a drastic change. Why? Because he talks about the importance of working with speed, and that is his focus. He knows that time is not on his side. He has the most political capital right now, especially knowing that he has the Republicans in charge of the House of Representatives and the Republicans in charge of the Senate. This is his moment. He's got to get the work done for the American people.
Yeah, and we've been hearing him throughout the campaign and even throughout the past week saying he's going to do fill in the blank on day one.
Right.
Fill in the blank on day one. And, well, it is officially day one, or at least a few hours into day one. And, again, he's getting down to
I remember
business.
one time last week, Katrina, we said our scripts kept saying on day one, and we were like, day one's going to be busy.
Can I tell you, this is the longest day one I've ever had in my whole entire
And he's not
life.
even half over. Like, he's not only half over yet. He's got to do that speech. Then he's got to go to the inaugural. He's got to go back to the White House, and he has to go to the inaugural balls. But if you know anything about Donald Trump, you know he's got a ton of energy. I don't know where it comes from, but it's amazing.
A ton of energy that he gets from his supporters.
Yeah.
That is what it is. This MAGA movement, when you think about Donald Trump, the energy he gets, that fighting spirit, it is all because of those people who have been loyal to him and have basically stood by his side during the roughest of times that this president has experienced.
The power of the people.
Absolutely. He said he's had to endure more than any other president during a campaign battle, and without question. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. Stick with us here as we watch the motorcade, President Trump leaving the Capitol on day one.
Check it off the list.
Yeah, okay.
Welcome back to Newsmax. What you're looking at and what you're hearing, that is President Trump's motorcade traveling literally right behind us on the street as the president heads from the Capitol to Capital One Arena.
That's right. We're going to welcome in Dick Morris, the host of Dick Morris Democracy, right here on Newsmax. He's an advisor to President Trump, former advisor to President Bill Clinton, and author of, quote, The Return, Trump's Big 2024 Comeback. Dick, good to have you on. Listen, you predicted a landslide on November 5th. You were exactly right. Predict us now what happens in the future, especially these first couple days here with the presidency.
Well, I think Trump is going to go about like an accountant, systematically checking off every one of his promises and doing them probably today, tomorrow, and this week. And it's going to be very exciting, and the effect will be immediate. But if you'll indulge me for a minute, the thing I'd like to talk about more today is the other thing that happened today. That Joe Biden issued a series of totally outrageous pardons in the last hours in office. The big one was of his brother, James Biden, and the other one was of Fauci, the scientist who I think misguided the country and I think played a role in the James Biden, Biden's younger brother, was owed $500,000 in taxes and $200,000 to other creditors, and had tax liens against him for $700,000. So Biden arranged for the Overseas Private Investment Corporation presidential body to give loans to a guy named John Hyansky to build auto plants and car dealerships in Ukraine, which was probably illegal because it's supposed to deal with only American jobs. But apart from that, when Hyansky got the loans from the government, basically, he issued a $900,000 mortgage for James Biden that gave him the money he needed to pay off his tax lien. So basically, the American government paid James Biden's taxes. And he was pardoned today, along with his wife, along with many other members of the Biden family. So we'll never know the truth of it, and we'll never be able to expose horrible fraud on the American people. The other thing that outrages me is that Biden gave a pardon to Fauci, the scientist who was director of healthcare during the pandemic. And the pardon isn't just a law. It precludes us from investigating Fauci and understanding the origin of COVID. We'll no longer be able to hold him before a committee and have Ron Paul, the senator from Kentucky, pin him down about how the U.S. government funded much of the development of COVID, much of the development of technology in genetics of a bat, and changed this virus so it would be more infect humans and more deadly when it did. And Fauci has been covering this up. The investigators have gotten closer and closer. There recently were documents that came out that made very clear that Fauci and the others knew that federal funding was being used to develop this virus. The theory was that they needed to develop it to know how to counter it. But it unleashed 6 million deaths in the world, including 1 million in the United States. And this pardon will preclude investigators from ever getting the truth.
Right.
All right. Dick Morris, host of Dick Morris Democracy. Always excellent insight there. We appreciate your joining us. And
reporting that Vivek Ramaswamy will not serve in Trump's new Department of Government Efficiency, that per the White House, which is a big news. As we know, he had met with Governor Mike DeWine, possibly to be picked as a senator. That did not come together. And there has been a lot of talk and a lot of sources saying that Vivek Ramaswamy, he will announce that he will run for governor of Ohio. He has been making the rounds everywhere here in Washington, D.C. this past weekend, but also you've seen him here at the Capitol Rotunda during the president's inauguration. Kind of interesting.
Think there's more to it?
I believe there could be more to it.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think that Elon Musk is really going to take control of Doge and working very closely with Russ Voigt, who, as we know, is the head of the Office of Management and Budget.
But it will be interesting to see if he does pull the trigger on a gubernatorial run. You know, he's very wealthy. He has a lot of money he can throw at it. But he's considered really an outsider within the party. I don't know if he's necessarily aligned with Governor Mike DeWine, who is the titular head of the Republican Party in the state of Ohio. So it could set up a very interesting primary fight for that seat.
If President Trump does endorse Vivek early on, that could change.
It could change the dynamics.
Because that endorsement could be worth a lot as Vivek announces this race if he decides to do so.
Favorite moment of the day. How about that as we close things here?
Favorite moment, two favorite moments.
Yeah.
Can I get two? One, the 21 gun salute, because we were literally right there.
Yes.
It was literally right there. And then, of course, being able to turn around and watch Joe Biden lift off from the east front of the Capitol and swing around right over here as he departed Washington.
Wave?
I did.
Did you say na 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 na?
No.
See you later, Joe.
I mean, I got to say my favorite moment is when he gave that unscripted speech in the Emancipation Hall, where it was literally just Trump unfiltered, just saying what he would have included in the speech. Just so fun to watch him just be ready to go and talk to his supporters and know that he's got a job to do, and that he mentioned God so many times and
yes,
saying
he did.
how God saved his life for this moment right now in this country, which I think was incredibly inspiring.
Yeah, my best moment was just being right here with you Bob Brooks and
Thanks,
Newsmax
Kat.
and our Newsmax viewers and Tom and Mercedes and Carl. My first ever inauguration experience, and you guys all made it great.
Terrific.
Congratulations,
Fun.
President
Very
Trump.
good. Yeah, I loved his speech, his address after being
The theatrics going to be about these executive orders, and could we see a series of pardons for the J6ers still in jail? Won't that get this crowd up and running? There's going to be a lot of dramatics planned to take place here. We just heard from the Army Field Band here in Washington, D.C., but everyone's excited for the president, Donald J. Trump. He'll be here momentarily.
Yeah, Mike Carter, I'm sure. We appreciate giving us those updates. We've been hearing it is a packed house there. We saw a lot of other people standing outside, maybe hoping to get in. Any word on how it was decided, who was able to get in? Because we know there are a lot of people who traveled from all over the country, maybe even all over the world, to get a glimpse of the president outside, but we know that things changed a little bit with the weather.
Yeah, things changed. We had to be here very early. We know we were here late last night, and folks, as they had a rally here last night, and then folks left the building. Some of them didn't walk too far if they were staying